Week 1 is in the books for the Minnesota State High School football season, and the Academy of Holy Angels Stars soundly defeated the Hill Murray Pioneers by a score of 47-6 on home turf this past Friday night, the opener. It's time for the Coach's Corner. We're joined by the Academy of Holy Angels head coach, Jim Gunderson. Good afternoon, Coach. Did you have yourself a nice long weekend and back to the grind, I'm sure?
Yeah, I was pretty much instantly back to the grind, but it was good. Even participated in a fantasy football draft with all my high school teammates from Hastings. So it was always fun to get together with those guys and then refocus back on South St. Paul.
In refocusing back on South St. Paul is going to be important. They come up this Friday night, and before we get in that, and we talked a little bit about this at the post game. Some things your team did really well. Obviously, you jumped out of the chute to the 40-6 lead in the first half, picked up 7 with that first team offense to guarantee the running time, and just kind of closed it out with the B and C squatters along the way. But there are so many good components to this game. There's some things that you want changed, but let's just touch on the good things first. You really had some great play out of your quarterback, Joseph Heimbold. He looked like a senior leader. He had some other weapons that he could go to as well, but really, it really started through him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's this is his third year starting, so he really was a seasoned vet out there. I think he was almost 100% on all of his reads. And when a team is going to take away, our number one running back, it was good to see Joe kind of make the appropriate reads and distribute the ball, and other weapons have emerged, and Keontae Shorter at kind of slot, and Ryan Mazurek as a pass weapon as well.
And then obviously you got the big horse and Jack Anderson. You can go to him at any time. And as we were talking before we went on there, you only fed him 5 times. And what was really nice, I think, from your perspective, is you had so many other people that could and did contribute.
Right, exactly. If a team is gonna key off and try to tackle Jack, we've got other options, and the philosophy is to take what the defense gives us. And Joe did a great job of seeing what the defense was trying to take and making the appropriate reads to put us in a position to be successful.
He also,
and we really put a challenge up to the offensive line, and they really rose to the challenge out of the gates and were blocking and opening up holes very well.
And they also were able to block for a number of different ball carriers. I don't know, what did you have, about a dozen that handled the ball at some point, at least with one carry?
Probably at least that, yeah. Between the 3 quarterbacks we played, the 4 running backs that we played, and another guy who emerged was Rook Rowe, who came in the game for most of the end of the second quarter and then the opening drive of the third quarter, and he really impressed us with his running ability and explosiveness, popping in for a score at the third quarter.
Yeah, he was 11 of 38, averaged 3.5 carries. Heimbold was 13 of 116, averaged 8.9, and you mentioned you were really happy with his reads all across the board there. Jack Anderson, 5 for 48, averaging just a massive 9.6 yards per carry. I want to talk a little bit about Keontae Shorter and his punt return capabilities. These teams are kicking away from people, and they're kicking away from him for sure. But there's, the punts have been real impressive in his returning ability. He can sometimes scare you, I'm sure, as he starts to create. But do you just say to that kid, "Hey, go get him"?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got complete confidence. We work every day, him catching the ball in traffic and judging when to fair catch it and when to try to turn it on. I mean, he's an explosive, dynamic player that he's kind of like a balloon that you release and all the air comes out, with how he kind of dances around a little bit. But he's just dynamic. I mean, he's a huge threat in the return game, both kickoff return and also punt return. I mean, he led the district in punt return yards last year, and he's much more confident and experienced back there, where he's a dangerous weapon.
Well, he's well on his way with his big return for a touchdown off of the punt as well. I think that one was a 65-yarder there. So very impressive stuff in the defense. How did you feel about them? Can you summarize what you saw in their play?
The goal was to play fast, to play extremely fast and pursue and swarm to the football. And I think that's what you saw. Is anytime you hold a team to 30 yards rushing, I think the guys are keyed up, and there's a credit to the pursuit.
Indeed, there was. So let's look ahead now to South St. Paul. You brought up an interesting statistic. They've lost 3 ball games over the past 3 years. They've been to the state tournament each of those years, and it was basically in those games. This is a team that runs the table during the regular season, Jim. I mean, they're just that good. You talked a lot about the environment. We'll get into that in a minute. But what about that football team? What do you expect from them? You know them from when you were a kid playing at Hastings against them in the old Classic Suburban Conference. You know, this is a team that can play the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're going to get off the football on the offensive and defensive lines. They're blue collar. We're going to be a physical team, and we're going to run the football. And that's what they set out to do. You know, they want to control the clock and run the football and kind of shrink the game. And the quarterback, he threw a couple nice touchdown passes last week. So it's, the coach's son, he's very, very talented QB who probably looks like he makes good decisions and has a nice arm and is really athletic. So we've got our work cut out for us just by their identity as a smash mouth run it football team. So we just got to match that physicality and kind of get that mentality of we're gonna be more physical.
Wow, and that's a team that, you mentioned the blue-collar community that they are, the passion that they have. They'll be very physical, so to match that is a football game worth seeing right there. I would definitely make the trek. Unfortunately, we're going to be out, not unfortunately, but unfortunately for this game, we're going to be in Orono covering Benilde St. Margaret's in Orono on the Catholic Sports Network, but this is definitely a game worth seeing. There's no question about that, and the environment, you talk about the bowl. Can you explain the bowl for those that haven't seen it at South St. Paul with the football field and how it works?
Yeah, it kind of sits down below the road in the school, and it kind of I think back when I was in high school, we always referred to it as the pit because it was grass field, and it used to be thick grass, and then after you get a few weeks into the year and a couple rains, it's like a mud pit. But I know they redid the field. It's a great old traditional stadium, much like the one I played in Hastings. It's kind of below the highway, and it's just a neat experience to go in those kind of the stadiums.
Well, and the kids will be in for a good one. You got a team as good as South St. Paul and as good as yours. When you have matchups like this early on in the season, obviously the object of the game, the goal is to win the football game. But sometimes you don't get the results you're looking for. And the learning experiences. I mean, do you approach this of, okay, got to win this football game, or bust? Or do you say, we're going to play physical, we're going to play fast, we're going to do the things that we do. If it turns out to be a win, great, but what do we get from this and carry it on to the season? How do you share that, and what's your approach to a big game like this early in the year?
Well, I think it just goes back to playing the play. Each play we're playing to win, and then we have these goals that we try to accomplish that we feel like if we meet those goals throughout the game, such as create 3 turnovers, like don't allow, win on third down, like those types of individual goals that those lead to the wins. And, we'll keep focusing on those goals and hope the end result is a win, which, that's the goal in itself. But you can't just think of the end result. We got to just win each play, focus on our team goals, and play as hard as we can and let the chips fall where they may.
Sounds great, Coach. Let's see if those chips fall in the right win column for you this upcoming week, and hopefully we have a win to talk about next week.
That's the goal.
All right, Jim. Good luck to you. That's Jim Gunderson.
Right,
you bet. Jim Gunderson from the Academy of Holy Angels, Coach's Corner right here on the CatholicSportsNetwork.org. We'll be back next week with another edition. So long, everybody.